Well, we need to say our names and clap.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Tim, you can do the honors of that
I
first.
can kick it off from there if you guys want.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. My name is Tim.
My name is Joseph.
My name is Rich.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to CineTalk. This is a podcast we've been talking about doing for a long time. And welcome to the pilot. In truth, it is the 9th episode we've recorded. Our first attempt at a pilot. The sound got messed up because it was our first attempt at a pilot. And maybe if we last, if the people love us and decide that they want to keep listening to us, maybe one day we will release the horrible audio botched included version of that pilot.
Yeah, AKA my audio is terrible. And it's terrible for like 6, 7, or 8 out of the 9 videos. It's me every time. Every time.
I mean, I wasn't gonna point fingers, but since we are, and you know, it'll be a fun pilot if people like us. We can build anticipation now. It was all of us watching Spider-Man Lotus together.
God. Terrible.
It was a fascinating
experience.
It was a fascinating experience through and through. So just to kind of give people a feel for the kinds of tastes we're coming to the table with, all of us do video work in different capacities. Some of us freelance. Some of us just got out of school for it. Some of us freelance while having a main job, and it's like a side thing. But we love it, and we want to talk about those creative aspects. But we know that a lot of people get into movies and get into film because they have movies and film that they love. So we're going to start there and talk about what are our 10 out of 10s. And I'm going to tell you guys, my 10 out of... I'm really picky about giving something a 10. A 10 is like a whoo boy, that was incredible. That was
yeah, you were my roommate. You were the most like critical person. Still, I feel like you're the most critical person I've ever met. And I thought I was critical.
I'm
like 9, 8.
Just rolled up to this podcast saying, "Yeah, I have like 101 movies on my best movies of all time list," and I'm like, I have like 8 or 9, 10 out of 10s. And that's
in your whole life.
a couple of them are TV shows. A couple of them are shows.
That's interesting.
A couple are shows.
I feel like I know definitely which one.
Out, it's even fewer. And I'll say TV shows are allowed, I think. I think TV shows, you're allowed
I'm cool with that.
To say what your 10 out of 10 TV shows are. So
it would have been Game of Thrones for me, but then the last season happened.
The last season did happen. It sure did take place. It had a beginning, a middle, an end, a water bottle, and a Starbucks coffee cup.
Yes. That was the standout of the whole series. The
On a tech level, it was good. Minus.
Oh, Battle of the Bastards. Hands down. My favorite thing in the whole series.
Season 7 or 8. That was 6.
Yeah. That was the good season.
But anyway, so who wants to go first? Or should I roll a die?
Roll a die.
Yeah. Do that. That's
roll a dice. Leave it to chance.
Chance.
This is how we do it.
Roll 2 virtual dice? No, we roll 1 here. So 1 and 2 is Rich. 3 and 4 is Jack. 5 and 6 is me. The die says 4. So 3, 4.
Oh wow.
That's. Did I say Joseph?
Yep. I think you did.
Yeah.
Great. So we're gonna be here for 8 years. Joseph,
yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, starting with 101. I'm just kidding.
Ranked
I might
101.
I don't think I'm going to go through all of them, but I'm going to list a good amount, but not 100. First off, to set the standard, a 10 out of 10 for me is easily just Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm just going to name a person, just so people know. Just a person. Food, steak, pizza. Okay, I'm done.
All of Leo's movies are a 10.
All Leo's, except for The Beach. People might not know that one. That one was terrible. But I still love Leo. Favorite actor of all time.
I rate Leo anything under 25.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yep. For those women, for those young women out there. But on a serious note, it's funny I bring up Leo, and I did it on purpose because, well, number one, so people get to know me. I love Leo. He's one of my favorite actors. I know one day I will meet him in person. It will happen. I'm going to manifest it.
And he'll say things like, security, get this guy off me.
You're my dad! Wait! I need to go to my quiet place! Oh my gosh, okay, so reason why I bring up Leo, this is my favorite movie of all time. This is my 10.
Timer started.
And my 10 right here, out of 10, best movie ever made, The Departed, with Leonardo DiCaprio. And Matt Damon, Jack Nicholson, Mark Wahlberg, the crappier version of Uncle Ben in The Amazing Spider-Man. He's also in The West Wing. He's a great actor. Just, I didn't like that version of Uncle Ben that much. No offense to the actor. He's great in this. He plays the chief for the police force.
It's not your fault.
It's an amazing film. It's not your fault. But it's an amazing film about a hole in the agency, as in a hole within the cops. And then there's a mole within the cops agency, and then a mole within the gangsters with Jack Nicholson's side. And you have both of these leading forces switching over, and they don't know whose side is on which. And they're trying to figure out who is this person that this guy's been talking to this entire time. So it's this amazingly built up suspenseful film with, obviously you got Martin Scorsese behind it, who directed the film. And that to me, it's just the essence of a true crime thriller. It's an amazing experience, and by the time you get to like the final 20 minutes, like your jaw will just go all the way to the floor. It has one of the best endings in a film ever made. You will not see the ending coming. If you haven't seen The Departed, I truly recommend it.
Is there a rat in the ending?
Spoilers. There is a rat. A literal one.
A literal
rat.
There's
a literal rat that shows up.
Petition to have that shot removed from the movie of the literal rat.
It's perfect. It's more emphasis. It's just to make sure those dumb people know what Martin Scorsese was trying to go for. I knew, though. I'm not dumb. I'm smart. But that one's an amazing film. Another one is Django. Specifically Django Unchained. Directed by Quentin Tarantino. It is the greatest Western bloody movie I've ever seen. Yet again, with Leonardo DiCaprio. But it's starring the main lead, Jamie Foxx, in, I believe, his best performance next to Ray Charles. But the way he just pulls off Django, it's like a Western black version of James Bond. Like, it's the coolest, it's the hippest. The soundtrack is so amazing. The way they use like Western musical notes with hip hop. There's a song specifically with Tupac in the third act of the film where Django is just busting up fools with his pistol, and he's literally using a guy's body to cover up himself from the shots going, and there's blood just gushing all over the walls.
It's an obscene amount of blood. It's like a comical amount. Like, there's not that much blood in the human body.
Mm-hmm. And it has one of the best scenes of like redemption in it. Not to give spoilers, but I love the story. I love a good revenge story, but I also love it when there's actually some resolve to the character, and it's not just a bunch of blood and violence, which it definitely is, like 60% of that, but there's actual good character work between the two main leads, played by Jamie and Christopher Waltz, who I believe got an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor in that film, and he got it for Inglourious Basterds. I love that actor. So that's another perfect film in my eyes. Another one is Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. Technically, I could say all three. Like, if I can combine them all into a 12-hour film, the extended cut, not the original, which I love those too, I would say Lord of the Rings. But I can't. They're three separate chapters, so it's Return of the King. I remember the first time I ever watched that film, I was a kid. I was like 8 or 7 years old, and I just wasn't cool enough to go to the theaters. My parents didn't like the idea of me seeing a movie like that in the theaters for some reason. I still forgive you, Mom and Dad. But I got the DVD, watched it at home on our big, fat, big screen TV in the beautiful full screen edition of the DVD, and blew me away. I remembered having this feeling of like the first time I saw Star Wars. And I know I'm weird because I was a kid. I watched Return of the King first.
That's weird.
Not a lot of people know that. Because, dude, I had no idea what this was. I was shallowed. Like, my parents, like, didn't, like, tell me anything. I didn't know what the internet was. I was, like, only 7 years old, too. Good thing I didn't, because kids know the internet way too well at, like, age 5. And they have, like, iPhones by age 6. Stupid. Yeah. I'm grateful for my generation. But, yeah, I'm weird. And I've actually never told anybody that, but I first saw Lord of the Rings, first one I ever saw, Return of the King. It changed my life. I wanted to watch, obviously, the other ones. It changed my life even more. Aragorn is my favorite narrative character in any movie ever. I don't know if that'll ever change. I don't think it will for a very long time, but he is the essence of a man, okay? He is a man. Yes, and I know about the fact that he freaking broke his foot or something in the Two Towers or whatever, because every man should know that, and he's still committed, just like Leo did in freaking Django when he freaking cut his hand on the take. Yeah, I know these things. I'm crazy. I look up these stuff. I love bonus features. Sue me. But that is a 10 out of 10 to me. Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. I can talk about it forever, about the visuals, the score, the character work, the amazing act with the Mount Doom sequence with Gollum biting the finger of Frodo. That little piece of crap. Glad he died. And guys, I know that's a spoiler, but the movie's like 20 years old, so get over it. Sorry if I spoiled it for anybody, but get over it. Going into still the realm of fantasy, but more so science fiction fantasy. Well, actually, okay. I got to say this before I say that. Obviously, Star Wars is a 10 out of 10. Just like in general, the IP of Star Wars, I love it. Even the bad stuff I love. Even the prequels I love. But a 10 out of 10 for me in Star Wars is A New Hope. Because the reason why I say New Hope, and I've always gone back and forth about what's my favorite Star Wars film, is because, yeah, I'm going to be that basic dude. It was the first one. It was the one that set the tone for the whole franchise, and without it, we wouldn't have this amazing buildup of this universe. We wouldn't have The Mandalorian. We wouldn't have, yes, dare I say it, The Force Awakens. I think it's truly an underrated film, and I think it's, in some ways, does certain perspectives with the villain better than what they did with A New Hope. I'm not saying it's better than A New Hope, but I think the way they approached the villain of Kylo Ren was even cooler than how they approached it in Darth Vader. New Hope.
Force Awakens is a new hope.
I know. Here we go. I still love it. I don't care, man. I freaking love it. I love Force Awakens. I was about to say Force Awakens.
Saying it's bad. I'm telling you, they're the same.
I know. It's literally, yeah, and I get that. It's literally like a big Death Star, but it's called the Star Destroyer or something else, whatever it is. Star Killer Planet, Star Killer Base. But yeah, Star Wars, I gotta say that. The other 10 out of 10, because I had to give respect to Star Wars, a perfect science fiction film, and I have it right behind me, and I can't wait for part 2, Dune. And I even believe Dune Part 2 is going to be better than Dune Part 1. Will I be sad if it's not as good as Dune Part 1? Yes, I will be. But Dune Part 1 is an incredible Part 1 film, because the issue with Part 1 movies is that they're very... In general, Part 1 movies are boring because you know when you see a Part 1, you're only getting half of it. And I think Hollywood over the last couple of years has stepped up about the quality with the first half of a chapter. Just because it's the first half of a story doesn't mean it has to be boring. It doesn't have to be dull. And to me, Dune elevated every sense of what a Part 1 movie could do, not just with action, even though that's amazing, but Greg Fraser's cinematography and the way it's looking for Dune Part 2 is by far the most beautiful piece of visual realization of an IP from a book to what you're seeing right here, right now, like me. You're seeing this visually. I think it's the greatest interpretation of a science fiction iteration to live action. And I'm saying that even with Star Wars out. Obviously, I wasn't in the 70s when it happened, so I know that it changed a lot of things for the future of like movies. But I think Dune just kind of elevates how we look at sci-fi. Because technically Dune is what inspired George Lucas to make Star Wars. So I'm not saying obviously this movie is better than Star Wars, but I'm saying that you have to give some appreciation to the source material for the creation of Star Wars. And not a lot of people will know that. And not a lot of people will care, and I totally get that. I'm a loser. I'm a nerd. I read the books. I read like all 5 or 6. But to me, Dune, with Timothy Chalamet's performance, I mean, everybody's performance, even Zendaya's 5-minute cameo, Josh Brolin as Gurney, Baron, the main villain in the first part, just completely this big, fat, ugly slug of a monster of a man, just, creepy. Just everything about it, the world building especially, I absolutely bought into the planet of Arrakis of Dune. That to me is a 10 out of 10, guys. I do not say that lightly. And the last movie I will say, that is my 10 out of 10. I apologize too. I'm going to do a little quick sneak. La La Land. It's a musical. I love musicals. People need to know that about me. I saw Wonka. I also love that movie. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. But La La Land is a 10 out of 10 because it gave me hope when my heart was broken. And now it's my wife's and our favorite movie of all time because I could see myself as Ryan Gosling, as the man playing the piano with the hair in his face and just wanting to do his passions. But he couldn't fall in love because he had to do his passions. He had to learn to let go. And I was in that season. But honestly, I'm living a better life than that character because, hello, I got married, bit. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry to that character. I don't curse. This is the first pilot. I love Jesus. That's a 10 out of 10. La La Land, check it out. I know I'm being biased because I can relate to myself to characters, but that's the beauty of art. You relate yourself to a piece of cinema, to a piece of art.
Is that movie a 10 out of 10 because you could relate to Gosling's character?
Not just that. I think visually it's incredible. Damien Chazelle is an amazing director. Like, the music, I love the music too. And the dance sequence, the iconic dance sequence that I think 20 years from now, people will still be sharing that. They'll be telling people to watch this film. It's just a celebration of Hollywood. That's why I like the film a lot too. But that was a quick side note. The last thing I got to say for sure, because I got to tell people that I love superhero stuff. I mean, shoot, I'm wearing this. Last 10 out of 10. Spider-Man 2. The greatest Spider-Man movie of all time. Tobey Maguire. Not Amazing Spider-Man. Dear God. Paul Giamatti, you're probably going to get that Oscar, but you weren't going to get that for Rhino. So don't come back. Please. Don't come back. But, yeah, Spider-Man 2, plainest way of saying it is that it's an amazing story about a man who needs to learn how to balance his personal life and being a superhero and what matters more to him. And they do an excellent job of showcasing the stress of Peter Parker's life, of having school, wanting a girlfriend. Well, she also has a fiance, so shame on you, Peter, you dirty dog. And also trying to impress his... I think he's like in a program where he's working with Dr. Octavius, and obviously things go awry with their relationship, but he's trying to impress this father figure in his life when he lost Uncle Ben. So there's just a lot of layers to it. It's not just a great action film. It's a very deep, well-layered film that I think there's a reason why people still talk about Spider-Man 2 being the best next to No Way Home or Into the Spider-Verse or Across the Spider-Verse. So Spider-Man 2, it's just a very well-executed superhero film, and I think it's still the standard of superhero films next to The Dark Knight and a Logan, or even the first Avengers. I would say easily those would be in my top 5, little plug-in for other superhero stuff. But yeah, that's my 5 or 6 or 7, however many I said, 10 out of 10s. Just a little variety, some musical, some fantasy, some science fiction, some love.
Are we just flipping the coin for who's next, or are we talking about that list at all? Which is heads. I am tails. It is heads.
Richard.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm you literally just said what I was, and I forgot that quickly.
That was me too. When he said 3 and 4, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. Huh? Yeah, so for me, I'm very loose with what I like, what I don't like. I could like things for really any number of reasons, and I can dislike something for any number of reasons. I feel like out of the three of us, I am probably the least, what do you call it? I don't know. I don't know how you would say, but they're both, I feel much more critics. They've watched a whole bunch of stuff. They have parameters as to why or why not, these kinds of things, and have really informed stuff. Me, a lot of it is just, I mean, of course there are technical things or whatever that I that I look for, but a lot of times I just vibe with something, and that's why I like it or not. I'm also a person. These are good things to know about me. Number one, again, I'm very not particular. One. Number two, I feel completely comfortable with starting and stopping a movie or show like whenever and wherever I want. And so that means even sometimes just skipping like 3 seasons into a show that I'm just starting because I felt like the first episode was completely boring and I don't care anything about it. So I'll just skip 3 seasons. I'll have no idea what's going on. And so there's that about me. And then the third and probably most important thing to know about me when it comes to film and television and stories in general is that I do not care. I repeat, do not care about spoilers. You can tell me anything you want to tell me, and I will be just fine. I'll go and I'll
bizarre to me.
And I will watch that movie or that show and have completely forgotten what you told me. And even if I do remember what you told me, it means nothing to me because the experience of the thing is completely different than from someone just telling me. If one of you guys pitched me, a show idea or something like that, like it could be great, it could be very descriptive, it could be wonderful and awesome and that kind of thing, but it could never compare to actually watching the thing. So those things out of the way, now I'm going to rattle off a bunch of things that other people may or may not like. Big Trouble in Little China is a 10. Star Wars Episode 3, a 10. Jingle All the Way, a 10. A Christmas Story, a 10. Cinema Paradiso, a 10. The Dark Knight Rises, a 10. The Matrix, a 10. Les Miserables, a 10.
Yes.
Prescription Murder, which is... Prescription Murder is kind of a weird one because it got used... kind of as a pilot, but it was a made-for-TV movie. It's if we go to the show thing, it's Columbo. I love Columbo. That's all you need to know about it, frontwards and backwards. Literally, my wife just like last Christmas bought me the entire like DVD collection of of all the seasons. Like I watch all of them all the time. I watch YouTube channels that talk about and analyze Columbo. Like yes, I'm very into Columbo.
I had no idea.
Yes. Oceans, the Oceans series, the 11, 13. I don't know about the other one. I didn't watch it, so I'm not even going to talk about that one, the one that everyone hated. And also Infinity War. So, yeah. So those are all movies. There are a bunch of other movies that I'll probably call 10s, but those to me are 10s. I can watch them basically any time. And I would want to watch them at any time, but probably don't because either A, I don't have the time, or 2, I don't want to piss my wife off because I've already watched it a bajillion times. And I'm probably going to watch the same thing again right after I watched it. So yeah, those are some 10s of mine. Hopefully that was...
I wasn't ready for you to say Big Trouble in Little China.
Really?
I wasn't ready for that.
Dang.
Yeah,
I think
that is quite literally probably number 1 favorite movie of all time.
Hysterical, really. Big Trouble in Little China. Okay.
Yeah.
I think the one that stood out to me, because I agree with Richard, because I grew up with this film, and it's quite possibly my favorite Christmas movie of all time, next to Home Alone 1 or 2. Jingle All the Way.
Yes.
That is a cinematic motherfucking masterpiece, and I don't care what anyone says.
Dude, it's so good. Because, like, there's so many lines in there, especially from Sinbad, who is, like a serious stand-up comedian. And there's just things that he would say, I'm like, who wrote it? There's no way. But it's like, if someone didn't write this, I don't know what they would have had there instead. I don't know. Yep. Like there's just for me, like that's the thing, right? It's like the same thing for me. I could have on there Die Hard, right? Like Die Hard 1 and Die Hard 3 really are ones that I really, really enjoy. 2 is good too, but like I like 1 and 3 for completely different reasons. 3, what I really enjoy again is just because there are certain things in there that I'm like, how did they I don't know, man. It's like the thing that one thing in particular that Sam Jackson, his character says in there. So it's like when they're talking about like, oh, it's going to, the dude, he's going to blow up, whatever place and that kind of thing, right? And they get off the phone with him and he's like, like, I don't know what y'all want me to do. And there's this line, he's like, that's a white man with white problems. There was just something about that there's like just so many like historical layers to that I'm like, who wrote this? Like, is that something that he said? Is it something that they wrote and they're just like, they're tapped into something? But yeah,
Dang.
that and amongst other things, it just has a lot of charm. But like a lot of these movies, I feel like in general, just, I mean, and maybe that's what you could say. Like maybe I'm more so, I guess, like romantic when it comes to some of these like movies. Is just like a way that something makes me feel with regard to like just the authenticity of the thing and just like where could that have come from? Like it doesn't seem like someone just sat down and, or like it came from some sort of like other kind of place. Like there are certain things that come from somewhere, super real. I really enjoy that, And of course there's a lot of like technical things that I really enjoy with like color and, that I really love, scenery and that kind of stuff. But, a lot of the stuff is just like it makes me feel good. Les Mis is a huge one. I mean, outside of the fact that like it looks beautiful, plenty of people hate the hell out of that movie, but I love it. That's a movie I can watch over and over and over again.
I'm
my wife hates
it again,
dude.
It's a beautiful film.
Yeah,
I'm seeing that again in Dolby Cinema, bro. And then I'm gonna go see Dune Part 2. They're doing a fan first screening. My friend was like, "Hey, let's go see Les Mis," and I'm like, "Yes, I will." The 10th anniversary, baby.
Dang, 10 years already? That's crazy.
Yeah, bro.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's
yeah. So yeah, those are my things. The things that a lot of people would say are not like, oh, the technical, like the pinnacle of technique or whatever else. But like, I don't care. I like them. They're my 10s. So if you need to know anything about me, this should tell you everything you need to know.
Dude, that I love it. Put that cookie down. Iconic.
No.
Apparently,
Iconic.
Sinbad improvised most of his dialogue.
I mean, makes sense, bro.
That does make sense.
It's a kids movie with so many crass jokes. There are so many jokes in there that should not be in there. And it's also, there's a subplot that is so bad that I kind of forget that it was a kid's movie when I'm watching it as an adult. The freaking guy who's trying to freaking get in the wife's pants.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, there's an adultery angle in this kid's movie. And this is about a freaking dad just trying to get his kid a gift.
Yep.
And then you got, hey,
I
got some cookies.
Yep, Ted.
Oh
Good old Ted, bro.
Dude, I love him. He is doing like wonders in that role. Like he is so funny. But I'm like, dang, they're literally doing an adultery angle in a children's movie. Mm-hmm. What the frick?
I don't give a lot of 10s out of 10s, but a lot of the 10s I have given or do give are 10s that are here to surprise nobody. But I feel like these movies have really earned it. First and among the foremost is Jurassic Park 1. Jurassic Park 1, when I was a kid, I was like, I am not here for these people. I am here for these dinosaurs. Now that I've grown up, one of the best scenes in that movie is when they're just eating lunch. Like, those characters are great. These are iconic characters in that movie. Another one, produced pretty much in the same year by the same director as Schindler's List. I saw Schindler's List once, and I said to myself, wow, 10 out of 10. I never need to see that again. I do think I need to watch it again, because I saw it a long time ago, and I feel like it's just time. It's been like almost 14 years since I've seen it.
Wow.
Lord of the Rings trilogy, for sure. I mean, I don't know what else I could say about it that hasn't been said, but I'm sure we'll find plenty of times in our podcast to still talk about it. The Dark Knight, I think, was a 10 out of 10. It's an incredible movie that those 2.5 hours just kind of sort of breeze on by. There's like not a single scene in that movie that's boring. Like, none. There are no scenes in that movie where I'm like, nothing.
I agree.
Another one is Memento.
Yes.
Which is, the other Nolan movie. A lot of people sleep on his first movie, Following. I don't think it's a 10 out of 10, but I do think it's worth watching. Memento was the one he did after that, which kind of like put Nolan on the map with people being like, oh, this guy makes good movies. Let's give him money. This movie was shot, I think, in like 25 days, Memento. It was made very quickly.
That's crazy.
And it was incredibly well done. A couple of TV shows I have on here. Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul are both 10 out of 10. Some people say that Better Call Saul, they're like, oh, it's just not as good. It's not this. It's not that. Sorry, you're wrong. These are both 10 out of 10 shows, and I stand by that. I don't know why people sleep on Better Call Saul. I don't know why they look at it and think, like, that. I don't know what it is. I'm not sure. Part of me thought to myself, well, the show has a slow start. I rewatched it, and apparently I lied to myself because that show starts like a banger. Parks and Recreation is a 10 for me. The characters in that show are fantastic. It's absurdly quotable. I quote it with my siblings all the time. A couple of them are animated shows. One of them, I jump between a 9 and a 10. It's a show called Monster. There's a guy in the anime world called Naoki Urasawa who's kind of become like a celebrated storyteller. His most recent release was a 8-episode Netflix retelling of Astro Boy, except it's a murder mystery where robots are dying. Every episode is like a full hour long, and I haven't watched it yet. But when people are like, that sounds dumb, someone will say, oh, well, Naoki Urasawa did it. And they're like, all right, I'm in. I'll watch it. Because Monster won people over. Monster is the only time I have ever seen a commercial for a manga on American television. I've never seen that before or since. And it was on like Barnes & Noble, like must-read list, blah, blah, blah. It's very good. Going down, there's another one. There's a anime franchise called Rurouni Kenshin, which is a really...
Yes.
Yeah. Rurouni Kenshin is a really iffy subject for a lot of people right now because about 6 or 7 years ago, the author got in some hot water. But all that aside, there was a 4-part animation about the main character of Rurouni Kenshin. And it was not silly or lighthearted like the television show could occasionally be. It was a very dark, stoic, beautifully animated story about the time where this character was an assassin fighting against the ruling class of the Japanese government in the mid to late 1800s. And it's gorgeous. You don't need to know the show to watch the movie. You don't need to know the characters. It's just told like its own self-contained story about his time as an assassin. It's about a kid who was like sold into the slave trade, and the trader caravan is attacked by these bandits. And there's like this lonely swordsman who lives on a mountain, shows up and just wipes the bandits out like no problem. And the only one left alive is this young boy. So he takes the young boy in and teaches him swordsmanship. And because swordsmanship is all this boy has learned, in and out, backwards, forwards, and sideways for like 7 or 8 years, he decides to go and fight against the government and becomes the best assassin that the revolution in Japan has. It's historical fiction. There's a lot of characters in this who are real people. The main character himself is not. He's not a real person. But several of the events that took place in this are actual historical events. Other bit of animation, I'm just going to say The Lion King. I know it's a 10 for everybody, and I know it's Hamlet. But again, like, there's no part of this movie that's boring or dull. Jeremy Irons gives what I think is one of the single best voice performances of any character ever in this movie. My newest 10 out of 10 on this list is Everything Everywhere All at Once. After Joseph Curtis conned me into seeing Morbius, I went back to the ticket counter and needed a palate cleanser. So I said, 1 for Everything Everywhere All at Once, please. And I went right out of Morbius and into Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I laughed so hard I cried several times. And I actually cried several times. I went into it thinking, because most of the time where everybody says this movie's a 10, this movie's a 10, you'll love it, it's great, it's awesome, I'm like, it's an 8. I had a great time. That was a lot of fun. I'll probably see it again someday. I'll watch it with like a group of friends. If I'm like, hey, this movie's really good, we should all watch it, blah, 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 blah. This movie completely exceeded my expectations. I was very, very happy with it. Another movie that kind of flips between 9 and 10 for me is, and I talk about it too much to feel like it's a 9 in my heart, is 12 Angry Men from 1957. 12 Angry Men.
Great movie.
I watched it with my grandmother, and she goes, I thought it was going to be dry, but that was a great movie. Because it's just about, like, it's about a murder trial. It has to be a unanimous verdict, and if it's guilty, it's an automatic death penalty, and otherwise, whatever happens, happens. And 11 people think he's guilty, and 1 doesn't. And it's all about how it's examining, like, what is worth being called a reasonable doubt. Because if you have a reasonable doubt, you have to vote not guilty. And only one person has it. Everyone else thinks it's an open shut case. This kid did it. It's over. Blah, blah, blah. And as each person starts to think that is a reasonable doubt and gets into why they feel like this guy might have a point, it beautifully reveals more and more about these jurors and their backgrounds, where they come from, and what the biases are inside of them that push them to think this is an open shut case, as they slowly realize that it's not. That there's more to this case that's worth talking about. Another one that jumps kind of in and out, borders on the 9-10 line, is Jaws. Jaws is my favorite horror movie. When I'm a kid, I'm there for the shark. When I grew up, all the scenes with the, like, show me the way to go home. It's such the scene where they're just talking on the boat. And then just to wrap up, because I have 30 seconds on my clock, I believe there's such thing as a bad 10 out of 10. A movie so bad, you enjoy it. And, I mean, ladies, gentlemen, and others, The Room is a 10 out of 10. It like when you get
there
that,
it is.
when you get that negative scale of, like, there's plus 10, there's minus 10. The Room is a banger. I'm almost out of time. It's a banger. I went and recently saw it for its 20th anniversary in a theater, and it was one of the best theatrical experiences I've ever had, because there was one person in front of me and one person behind me who went in blind. Their friends brought them and told them nothing, and they were losing their minds in real time. Those are, like, that's pretty much most, if not like all of my 10 out of 10s, honestly. Like, if I think about it long and hard, I'm sure there's probably a couple of other ones I'd throw in there. But I am really picky about handing them out, and a lot of them do kind of go where you think they would go. But to me, a 10 is like Hall of Fame. Like a 10 is like a Hall of Fame, and you don't just put anyone in the Hall of Fame. These are them. These are them for me.
There it is, the Hall of Fame, everybody.
The Hall of Fame.
Rich, I had no idea you liked Columbo. You should have met my grandma.
Yeah, I go crazy for Columbo.
Now,
like,
is it Columbo specifically, or are you like, Diagnosis Murder, I'm in. Murder, She Wrote, I'm in. Or, like, is it just, like, did Peter Falk just steal your heart?
Dude, Peter Falk, all the way. Like, I saw Prescription Murder, and
diagnosis murder, prescription murder.
Right, yeah.
You're gonna want to take one of these every morning.
It swept me away. I'd never seen anything like it. And then I just was like, where can I find, more of these? And I was just like watching them on Tubi. Like, honestly, like I went, I was like finding them on Tubi. And then, like I said, my wife ended up giving me the box set and whatever else and that kind of thing. But yeah, love it. Perry Mason, that's another one. Perry Mason, OG, super tight, love it. I don't know a lot about what do you call them, like mysteries, crime, that kind of stuff. Like, I'm terrible with puzzles. I'm terrible with solving mysteries and also the kind of stuff. Like, something about them is just like very fun and enthralling and that kind of thing. But yeah, man, Peter Falk, great, love it, classic.
I will say this because I at least want to mention at least a show and one genre that maybe people don't think I like. Real quick, real brief. My favorite show of all time, 10 out of 10. People would say, oh, it's probably The Office for Joseph. That's in my top 3 for sure. And Parks and Rec. But it's a show I always recommend to people if they want to see true comedy. And it's a series that's still running and will probably go for about 20 seasons in total. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Is by far my
nuts. That show is so nuts.
It is now finally getting to a place where people are starting to like, oh, I actually know the title of that show. I'm not just watching a YouTube short or a TikTok or back in the day when it was just actual clips on YouTube. And, that was the thing, I guess. But I really feel like people are now starting to like give it a little bit more respect for it just being, oh, it's a dumb, funny comedy show. They actually have some layers to it as well.
The funniest show about bad people.
Oh, it is. Oh, they are terrible. My favorite character. Oh my god! I mean, I love them all. I can't really say my favorite character because I love the group. The group is just so dynamic. You got Dennis D, Mac, Charlie, and the great Danny DeVito as Frank freaking Reynolds. Like, that is the greatest combination of actors that I never knew I needed. And then I watched the show and I binged like 13 seasons, and now it's like at season 16 or 17. So like, it's a show that like talks about. That was making fun of certain stereotypes, and then it was going through during when we were all going through it in the culture of like, oh wait, we can't really make fun of this stuff anymore, but we'll still like make light of certain things because we're a comedy show, but we're also going to pay respect to people. Like, it was a very smooth transition where they would be like, oh, we were like this. They're still like it, but they think they're being conscious of like their actions, so it's even funnier because they think they're actually on the right side of history or whatever. It's just genius writing.
Have you caught up on that show?
I need to watch the last season. I've been rewatching it literally. I do it every year. I rewatch it. I'm going to get the box set when it's done. I am a physical owner. I will not I'm going to get the whole however many seasons they do it. Like, Charlie Day, he's one of the writers. He's hilarious. He is like one of the most underappreciated writers, I think, in Hollywood because he is actually a genius. But the last thing I'll say, horror. I love horror. If you want to get to know me, horror is my jam. And if I had to say a 10 out of 10 on the top of my head, easily The Shining. That's probably my favorite horror movie of all time, Stanley Kubrick. But a recent horror movie that people should check out, and this is just a nice plug-in, it's called Talk to Me. Basically, a girl hangs out with her TikTok buddies, and they grab a hand, and it's a fake hand, and they say, talk to me, and then on the other side, they see a dead person. And that person wants to come inside them.
The movie was made by, social media stars, wasn't it?
Yeah, made by YouTubers.
Or something, and it actually turned out to be one of the, best horror movies of the year.
With a $5 million budget, they definitely recuperated. They made their money back tenfold, and now they're making a sequel. But it's a genius film that is truly devastating when you get to the ending. And it's one of those endings where you are floored, you are moved, but you're also like clapping at the same time. Like, you know what happened is truly sad. It's like The Exorcist. Everybody knows, if you're a horror movie lover, you know the ending of The Exorcist. It's one of the most iconic endings like ever in that genre, or just in general ever. It's like one of those endings where you are just floored. You are moved, you are saddened, but you're also like, damn, that's a freaking masterpiece. That is, like when you were saying Hall of Fame, I would personally put Talk to Me, and I've only seen that movie once. And I remember rewatching certain scenes because I recently bought it. It's just so moving, and it's a brisk 90 minutes. I love when certain movies, there's no such thing as a perfect runtime in the sense of like, not every movie needs to be 2 hours. Sometimes there are movies that need to be an hour and 25 minutes. Sometimes there are movies that need to be 3 hours and 15 minutes, like Avatar: The Way of Water, a perfect film in my opinion. But when a story just feels earned and you don't feel like it's too slow or too long, that's a perfect film. Like when you were talking about The Dark Knight, yeah, that's another one. But I just wanted to give a shout out because you were talking about Better Call Saul, which I love too. It's very underrated. I feel like to other people who view just Breaking Bad as just the 10 out of 10 out of all time, which I do agree it's up in discussion. But I think Better Call Saul should have some room up in there too. I love that series. And mind you, nominations, yes, 0 wins after 9 years.
53, not I think it was, which is crazy.
Not a single win.
Did you see season 15 of Always Sunny?
Yes. Yes, I have.
So you saw the one where it turns out that they played a big part in January 6th?
Yes! Oh my God, 2020 year in review where they find out that he messed with Rudy Giuliani's hair dye. Frank Reynolds bought some like China oil.
They're the ones who gave Giuliani his hair dye, and they're the ones who gave the QAnon shaman his hat.
Yep. Oh my God. Or when they messed with the votes, they went to all the voting polls like, hey, you should vote for this person. And they're like, are you telling me you helped with this?
And at the end, they're like, yeah, we wanted people to vote for our guy. And they're like, you wanted him to vote for Trump. And they're like, no, Kanye West. Yeah,
Kanye West.
You're in this for Kanye, right? No, we're all in this for Kanye.
Like I said, just another example of genius writing. Just so funny. They're so stupid. And you love them for it. That's the thing, you love them. You like hate them, but you love them, and you can't wait to like see what else, like what other garbage are they gonna get themselves into. Like Dennis is one of the creepiest characters ever, but he's
he's awful. He might be the worst of them. Because he's actually like he's
a murderer,
knowingly, actively malicious, more than any of the rest of them.
And I wouldn't trust him with the girl behind closed doors. I'll leave it at that for everybody else.
Not a single
my God. Dude, Dennis is crazy. Okay. By the way, go watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
But not if you're a kid.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
And watch Seinfeld, even if you're a kid.
Seinfeld is actually funny.
That's also one of my favorite shows of all times. One of my favorite shows of all time is Seinfeld.
Really?
Period.
Wow.
Period. Yeah. Period. And even the earlier seasons that everyone's like, oh, it's not as great. Like those are honestly some of my favorite ones because they're like mad random and they talk about super specific random parts of society, and it's not so much about like storylines per se and that kind of thing. And all the characters are way more like hyper individual. At any rate, watch Seinfeld too.
Joseph, I'm looking at your Vudu. Oh, you bought Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah, it's $5. I've never seen it. I was like, F it.
Yeah,
it's nowhere being streamed.
Joseph has 481 movies in his digital catalog that he has purchased over the years. I'm willing to bet if I call out like 2 or 3 random ones, you'll be like, oh, I forgot that one. That's a 10. Like The Batman.
Oh, that's a 10. And mind you, I'm going to stir the pot. I think it's better than The Dark Knight.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I don't think it is. There are some viable arguments to be made that this representation of Batman is closer to like comics lore.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying I'm like disagreeing with somebody if they think The Dark Knight's better, because I love the crap out of that movie.
I like the idea that this iteration of Batman doesn't really know who Bruce Wayne is yet, because Bruce Wayne is always supposed to be the mask. Bruce Wayne is what's constructed because he is Batman in his own mind. He's not even Bruce anymore. So the idea that he has to create Bruce Wayne from the ground up to actually, be what Gotham needs me to be. That's a cool idea. I like that. I like that approach. So I actually
Kurt Cobain version.
I am actually really looking forward to the sequel tackling that idea, especially now that they've announced that like Hush is going to be in it, because that's probably the perfect villain for
it's going to be either Hush or Court of Owls. Like I guarantee if
announced that Hush will at least be in it.
Oh man, if he's the main villain, great. Or if he's at least the setup for like the third final film, which actually I think they already did the setup for the third final film with Joker and Riddler at the end. I think that's what they're gonna do, which I love. Love the idea of that.
And riddles is what a lot of people are speculating. It's a comic storyline that Tom King wrote.
It's just people give a crap for that third act too, when the movie goes into like a superhero. That's what some critics were saying. Like the movie's so good, and then it turns into a generic superhero movie where all the different Riddlers come out with their guns, and Batman has to say. I'm like, so you mean? When it becomes a Batman movie, when it's still a Batman film, you idiots, like, it's still a multi-million-dollar film that, like, you gotta have action sequences in a Batman movie. You can't just have it be, like, detective scenes and that's it. Which I get what they were saying.
The biggest argument I can relate to people making for that movie, where I'll say, that's valid and you're entitled to think that's stupid, is the idea that there's no real final showdown with the villain. Like, the final showdown is with his lackeys, all the people who are going to commit crimes for him. There's no real, like, showdown between Batman and villain.
I guess...
I think that's what's genius about it. Sorry.
No, yeah, I was going to say, I guess, is because what Batman realizes after that conversation with the Riddler is that he is actually the bad guy. Like the way that he's been responding to his trauma and responding to all the things that are happening in Gotham is what has created the Riddler. In such a way that the Riddler was confounded when he realized that Batman wasn't going to be his homeboy.
No!
Like
this wasn't the way!
Yeah, exactly. No. That was like literally one of the most incredible things. Yeah, it's just like, it's like both ironically and like unironically one of the best performances ever. It's like it's really it's crazy that way, right?
I see a lot of movies with my mom. My mom's like, "Who was that guy? He was amazing."
Paul Dano.
Yeah,
Paul Dano.
So
chef's kiss.
Yeah, I think that's probably why, and you can see the spillover in that. Of when the whole flood thing happens, whatever, yada yada, and he's having these realizations of like, what I'm doing, like running around just like beating people up or whatever, is like not it. Like it's part of it, but it's like not the whole it. Yeah. And so
I agree.
And so to your point of like him realizing like there's another, like there's a part of his identity he has to construct, I think is like that was him coming out on the other side of like realizing that like that he has played more of a villain than an actual hero, and not just in being like an anti-hero, but actually in inspiring evil itself. And so
what's the scene, dude? Like you're hitting it on the like nail on the board, because the moment where he fully gets it is when he's on top of the raft thing or whatever, and he's beating the crap out of the dude, almost kills him. Catwoman stops him, and he takes the mask off, or the dude takes his own mask off or whatever, and he says, "I'm vengeance."
Yeah.
Batman doesn't say that. The random dude who works at 7-Eleven, who's now a freaking bad guy because he saw the one TikTok video from Riddler.
Which probably means that all of those people probably thought the same thing the Riddler did. Joseph, you missed The Greatest Showman, unless you think that's not a 10.
The Prestige.
Yes. Oh, and yes. Double yes for Prestige.
Yeah. Forgot about that one. I love that one. That was great.
Oh, Prestige.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That taught me a lot of things about art, actually.
Prestige.
And about, just about the whole concept of the concept of magic, and really just like the principle of that, and the principle of like real magic isn't magic. You know what I mean? If the magic was real magic, it would be terrifying, right? And just that idea of again, just it's like this. If I think of it even with film, right? Film and TV, right? It's like if I actually am that character, right? I'm terrifying, right? I'm not because I should not be real. I should not be in an actual physical space, right? For example, I'll just continue, right? However, if I play the character authentically, right, then that character becomes real, right? But in a way it's supposed to be real. So what we can see is method acting versus Meisner method, right? Method acting, sure, you can get results. However, a lot of them can end up being terrifying. They can leave lasting problems with a lot of people, and a lot of situations. They can cause a lot of problems, and they have throughout history. However, when you take a different approach, instead of bringing that thing to life that isn't supposed to be real, right? But instead breathing life into that thing through, I'll say, artfulness, through skill, and through I'll just say that. Then you can create that same. You can create magic by doing that. You can create this sleight of hand, right? That gets a person to believe that thing is real, even though it's not real. Even though I see it on the screen, it's not a real person, right? Obviously Batman isn't real. It's not real Batman. But imagine if he inhabited being Batman and actually walked around and beat the hell out of people, right? To be real, to be the real Batman, right? He's a monster. He's terrifying. He shouldn't be real. You see what I mean? It's and that was a thing that I watched that movie, I saw it once when I was a kid. Something about it really enchanted me. I didn't quite know what it was. I saw it again when I was an adult, and it just it kind of just clicked for me as far as oh, okay, I get it. Not as if it's not as if that was some sort of lesson to it or whatever. Maybe it was. I don't know. I feel it, was implicit in the thing, and part of that cautionary tale of again just this obsession with creating real magic instead of bringing the magic to life in a sense. You know what I mean? It's here we had the one guy they were both obsessive, number one, but you had the one guy that was doing the magic by living the magic, right? And taking the craft to its extreme, by sacrificing his life in that way. But then you had the other person who was also sacrificing his life, but in a really weird and grotesque way, in which he was actually making the magic real, which then made him a mass murderer. Like it was like it was like it's like that, right? It reminds me of even though it's a completely different thing and it's nowhere near a 1-to-1, but it puts me in the mind of Full Metal Alchemist, and when when he tries to like resurrect his mom, and he's like violating these laws or whatever, and it's just like certain stuff you're just not supposed to do, and when you try to
like
just something
monster, more or less.
Exactly.
It actually depends on which version of the show you watch what he actually brought back.
It's something that has stuck with me since the time I was a child. But like that idea of like there are certain things that like that should not exist in the real world. And when you try to force them into the real world, bad things happen. And so, I don't know. It just, for me, that was just such a strong thing that I had gotten out of that. It was a thing that really kind of like turned a light bulb on for me. Just as far as, again, that whole thing of magic, because magic itself confounds me. Like I don't understand how people do it. It's very confusing to me, but I find it incredibly fascinating that people get so good at it. It's just such an incredible skill, like comedy. Like I don't understand it, but it's so incredible to watch when someone does it very, very well, especially a stand-up comic. It's just like it's magic. Like you're watching magic. And I don't know. That was a tangent, but yeah.
It's all good.
Sorry.
The last 10 out of 10 I see on here, not my 10 out of 10, but Joseph's, that I don't think you mentioned was This Is the End. Is that not a 10 for you anymore?
Oh, that's a 10 out of 10 for a comedy for sure. God.
Like his favorite comedy. He's like, Tim, this is my favorite comedy of all time. And it's like 2 hours of like
grotesque
dick jokes, jerk off jokes.
Yep.
Who
touched my magazine? Who touched my dirty magazine?
I think Michael Cera gets stabbed by a street light or something.
He gets slapped by Rihanna as well. It's hilarious. He tries to touch her butt, and she's like, bop, right across Michael Cera's face. I love Michael Cera.
It's a movie where a bunch of celebrities play themselves while the apocalypse happens.
Like the biblical apocalypse, that's the straight up Bible apocalypse. And
like the earth is over.
There's a scene where James Franco is trying to, before he got canceled, when James Franco is trying to get to heaven and he does something right. He's like, yeah, I'm selfless. Suck my mother beep beep. And then the light goes out and then people just start eating him. I'm like, that is so
and gets torn apart.
Messed up. It's so funny. I'm like, because he's like, wait, no, I didn't mean it. Send me up, Lord. Send me up. And then also, when you have Backstreet Boys performing When You Enter Heaven.
That's right.
10 out of 10.
They all played themselves too, didn't they?
I lost my mind. I was in the theater, and it was a packed theater when comedies actually were able to be in theaters. Now it feels like they're really not. Like maybe 3 comedies a year now, but yeah, that was an experience I won't forget. God, thank you for reminding me about that movie.
Yep.
The one
I'd probably find 2 or 3. I do have a question for both of you guys, because this is different. This is not what's your 10 out of 10s. What are like your comfort watches? To me, comfort watches are not always like 10 out of 10. It's like, what can I just like put on and this puts me at ease? Whether it
Star Wars Episode 3.
Really? That's like your like for me a comfort watch is like something that I've seen before, possibly many times, and it's on another screen or a monitor while I'm doing work. Like that's a comfort watch for me, and I could let it play. You know, I've seen the show before, but I'm letting it play. Doesn't have to be a 10 out of 10.
I'm looking through literally my Vudu right now.
I only have
I'm trying to
honestly.
Show wise, because I'm always watching shows for comfort.
They're usually shows. Comfort watches are mostly shows.
Anything Seth MacFarlane does, which is American Dad and Family Guy. That is like.
Is that it?
That is
just those two.
He's done a couple others.
The Orville?
I'm not. Maybe. Oh, The Orville. Yes, that's a great show. Not necessarily comfort, but that's a very good show. Also, Ted the series was hilarious. People should check it out. But Family Guy was the first ever like adult cartoon I ever watched behind my parents' back, and no regrets. It's hilarious. Like I love that. That's something that I'll still like throw on a random episode, or The Office, or It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So typically it's like comedy shows. Like when you just have to put something on, it's like a 30-minute show. And currently right now I'm binging Community, which by the way is hilarious.
Yeah.
Dang. Comfort. Because right now I'm just trying to think of a movie, like an easy... Honestly, a comfort one for me, I mean, obviously Star Wars is an easy one to say for, obviously, me talking about my top 10. But a comfort, just off the top of my head, are two specific films, one being animated, and then another being a superhero film that I think is... I mean, honestly, I would have mentioned my top 10, but I'll say this one. The live-action Man of Steel, that's such a comfort movie for me. I can watch that movie any day. I really think Zack Snyder made a truly great superhero film that doesn't get a lot of love, but it's just something I can like throw on any scene. I can watch the amazing 15-minute opening sequence in Krypton with Russell Crowe being just awesome and sacrificing himself for his child. And then I can watch the epic sequence where Superman literally looks like he's reflecting Christopher Reeves when he like that machine is pushing down on him while he's trying to go up, and then the city's being collapsed, and Lawrence Fishburne's trying to rescue his coworker. It's epic, but like that's definitely a comfort movie. I'll throw that on like at least once a month, just watching sequences. But then animated wise. Beauty and the Beast.
Really?
That is a comfort movie. I love Beauty and the Beast. It is like it's the standard of Disney that I want them to go back to.
Yeah.
In the sense of quality. Like not necessarily the same story, but like when Disney was actually making great animated films, like not just good but great ones, and lately they haven't really been nailing it, in my opinion at least. Like, not saying they're terrible, it's just not the same. Yeah, it's just not the same. Like, especially with the live action ones, but like Wish sucked. Didn't like Wish. A Strange New World sucked too. Elemental was okay. It was surprising. I don't think it should have gotten nominated Best Animated Film of the Year though, but they did that because Disney and they got money. And I fully believe that statement, honestly. I don't think it's because it was a great film or Best Animated. I think they were just like, well, screw it, it's Disney. It's better than Wish.
Was the only animated movie to be nominated for Best Picture during the time where only 5 movies could be nominated for Best Picture before they moved up to 10.
Freaking good it was. And also, another snub for animated. I think Across the Spider-Verse should have gotten nominated Best Picture, personally. I think it really should have.
Okay.
But
is that a comfort movie too?
That one,
that would not be a comfort movie for me.
Not necessarily, no. A Spider-Man movie that is comfort is Spider-Man 1. Spider-Man 1 is a comfort film.
Yeah, I could see that.
I love that movie. That movie's so iconic with the terrible Green Goblin suit that I think is amazing.
I think it looks fine.
And I mean, I love it, but it looks like, you have to admit, it's like Go-Go Power Rangers. Like,
yes,
but that's why I love it. That's why I love it. Like you see his mouth move within the mouth, and the fire, like when he's rescuing the baby, or not the baby.
Yeah.
He thinks
but
it's an old
compare
woman.
That
plot
to
twist.
What we saw in Spider-Man Lotus, where where it was like the rubber mask, where it looks fine until like when he talks, just like the bottom lip kind of moves around.
Yeah.
My 2 biggest comfort watches are both animes. And both of them had the same creator. Like, that's just kind of the way the cookie crumbled. And the shows are not that much alike, honestly. The first one was an early 90s anime called Yu Yu Hakusho, which
there it is.
Which just got a Netflix live action treatment, which I've not seen yet.
I heard actual good things about that, I think.
Yu Yu Hakusho is a 112 episode anime, but each episode is about 20 minutes. It's a little shorter than your typical like half-hour programming slot. It's about a boy who jumps in front of a car to save a child who's about to get hit, and he dies, but the problem is he died too soon. So the spirit world doesn't have a place prepared for him. So he has to go through an ordeal to get his life back, but when he does, he gets a bit of like sensitivity to the spirit world and starts to be able to see apparitions that have snuck through to the human world. So the spirit world dubs him their spirit detective and has him solve cases involving paranormal activity on the human side of the world. It evolves from that into like a straight up action show. Like, I know a lot of people herald, like, DBZ as, like, the action standard for anime. The thing about Dragon Ball Z is these characters are better. Yu Yu Hakusho's characters are so... The creator of Naruto, which is not a comfort show for me, actually came out and said, like, oh, this character from Yu Yu Hakusho inspired my characters. The other one, by the same creator, who is actually married to the creator of Sailor Moon, is a show called Hunter x Hunter. A lot of people just say Hunter x Hunter.
That one I haven't seen, but I've heard great things about it.
The books go past the show, but the show stops at like a perfect spot. It is a comfort watch to me mostly, all the way up until you get to a specific arc that very much deals with what you were talking about, Rich, about how when you bring things in from that don't belong in our world, it goes bad. And that concept is the entirety of like a 70-episode arc of that show, and it is easily the darkest arc of that show. The arc is so dark, it actually gave me whiplash the first time I saw it, because like I watched it, like the show, any episode could be somewhere between PG and PG-13, pretty much all of them. And then the first like opening episodes of this show are like hard PG-13 light R. Like, it gets super dark, and it's still good. I've watched that arc twice now. It is a really good arc, but it's not like as light and bouncy and like as fun as the other arcs. So like all the way up to that point, which is like half of the show, Hunter x Hunter. Honestly, I would even say both versions, because the show came out in 1999, and then they were like, hey, there's more of the comic book out now. Let's start all over, and they did it in 2011 and readapted all of it. I've watched both multiple times, and they're very, very good. Those are probably my two biggest comfort watches. Parks and Rec can be one. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I like that episode. I'll go watch that. It's Always Sunny can be one as well. Early in my time living here, when I was just like rearranging stuff, my room and this and that, I was using like a random number generator to pick like a season and episode of Always Sunny. And that was actually a lot of fun to just not know where I was going to land. I think one of my absolute favorite episodes is the one where they all go to a water park together.
Yep. Don't they get stuck? And there's a kid.
Yes, they get
stuck with them.
They get stuck when they realize that if someone is sick, that there's like a program where they can just skip to the front of the line. They start walking around just saying that Danny DeVito's character has AIDS, and so that he can cut the line.
He's got the AIDS.
And he's like, I got the AIDS. I got the AIDS. But not the gay kind. I got the vagina AIDS.
I got the vagina. That's one of it's like a show.
Not that. I got the vagina AIDS. Let me through. And then he goes down a water slide that's dry, and it rakes up his back, so all of his blood ends up in the water, and everyone's like, that guy's got AIDS! That guy's got AIDS! Everybody get out!
It's so good. That one.
When he goes down the slide, the sound effect they use for the slide against his back, oh, it's agonizing.
It's such a great show.
They just use like a bottle of water to get the slide wet, and he just jumps. It's like a shut down slide for a reason. So he just dumps a bottle of water on it and goes down.
It's just like the last thing I'll say about that show real quick is it's a show that will have moments like that, but it'll have a moment where the entire arc is just Danny DeVito's character not understanding Mac's character, where he's going through his sexuality crisis, where he's like, I don't know, like, because like for 12 seasons there's a joke about Mac being gay and how he likes this transgender girl, and then he also likes this other woman who's like a love interest for a moment, but then he's like, I think I'm going to go to the gay bar for research. I'm not going to do gay stuff. I'm just going there for research. It's just these little hilarious moments. And they're like, Mac, you're gay. And he's like, no, I'm not. Yeah. That's a sin. I would go to hell. And it's like, it's just because he's like deeply religious and he's Catholic, so it's just even funnier because he's like so conflicted, and you can see that. But then they actually take it in a very serious approach in like the last 5 minutes of the episode, because then the whole aspect is gorgeous. It was beautiful, and it was like, oh my god, good. It was so good because it's hilarious because you're like in the character with Danny DeVito, where it's like, I don't understand you. I don't understand this part of your life. And then he gets to this moment where he sees him like do this interpretive dance for 5 minutes with this woman. And it's obviously him coming out in the most creative and beautiful way you would never think you would see in an Always Sunny in Philadelphia show. But then the ending is Danny DeVito does a close-up, and it's kind of like all over TikTok and stuff with like memes. The
GIF. You've probably seen the GIF before.
It's hilarious, but it's like the moment where he says, I get it. Yeah. It's like so beautiful, but it's so funny too, because it's like, why are we having a freaking not break dance, but like interpretive dance? Interpretive dance moment in this series, but it just works because it's like it almost felt like it was building up always to this moment for this character.
It's when he's practicing this interpretive dance to perform it at the prison where his father is. So he uses this chance to perform for the prisoners to come out to his father, and his father rejects him. And Danny DeVito walks out. Accepts him. And it's honestly like, this is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Why is this beautiful right now? Why am I crying right now?
Like, this is the series where you have the iconic sequence, be gone from me, vile demon, be gone, I am a golden god, my rage knows no bounds or something, and I'm like,
or when they go to reminisce about their beautiful old memories walking under the boardwalk at the beach, and two homeless dudes are banging under it.
They're like, this is where love happens, Charlie. Yeah, that kind of love. What? I want to go here. What kind of place is this?
And then it pulls out like this beautiful, heart-stopping, gorgeously crafted moment of fantastic character development for a season finale that ends on like this really serious note, and you're like, that was really good.
Yeah, they do that again with Charlie's character because he has like a really interesting arc with his dad. He like goes to like Ireland or something.
He meets his dad in Ireland.
Beautiful scene. I'm like, that's why I think Charlie Day's him and Rob whatever his last name is. He's like best friends with Ryan Reynolds. McElhenney. They own like he's.
Charlie Day is one of those actors. I think maybe it won't take as long as Brendan Fraser. But I always thought to myself, I remember specifically thinking once, wouldn't it have been like wacky if way back in the day when Brendan Fraser was like an action hero making quips and George of the Jungling around and all that, like what if he just made a really serious turn and got like an Oscar? I think Charlie Day has it in him. Mm-hmm. I know that sounds weird, but I have this weird gut instinct that if Charlie Day like wanted to turn in like this super serious performance with like a comedic twist or whatever, he comes off to me as someone who has that kind of potential. Not that like winning awards is the end all be all of being an actor, but I don't know, something in my gut says he could do it.
I think him, and then Pete Davidson. I think Pete Davidson could actually turn.
Maybe they should make a movie
performance.
Get actor and supporting actor.
He's he did a really good job in a movie called The King of Staten Island, which is basically like a biographical film about his life, about his dad who was a firefighter during 9/11, and he passed away, and it's like him 10 years later still dealing with like him not having a dad. He lives with his mom which is true. I don't think anymore, but he lived with his mom for a very long time, like her basement. So it's a very like raw project. I mean, if you guys are still watching this video, check out King of Staten Island. But
well, I was just about to ask you, Rich. You've seen Yu Yu Hakusho? Have you seen all of it?
Yeah, are you kidding me?
I didn't know you'd seen all of it.
Of course.
Bruh.
Yeah, I grew up on that. I mean, I'm a real DBZ fanatic. That's a real comfort show for me. Like just completely random. But I love Yu Yu. Like it's crazy.
Did DBZ Abridged warm your heart?
It's crazy because I have not seen a single second or frame of that.
Oh, and interesting.
Yeah, all throughout the years, like people are like, yo, you gotta watch it. I just have never gotten around to it.
It's genuinely good. I mean, I think one of the interesting things about watching a fan-made project like that takes such intensive work is like, now that it's done, now that it's over, anyone who sits down to watch that beginning to end is gonna see the creator's techniques develop throughout. So I'd be really curious for your take on it if ever you do decide to watch it all the way through, kind of like seeing the growth of their production quality just increase more and more and more.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Maybe that's a fun little project or endeavor that we can do together at some point.
It would be a really fun episode. I mean, we touched on it a little bit, but fan films, not just short films, fan films. People who make films about established IPs, that could be a fun episode of us watching.
We definitely have never done that before.
We did it for a pilot. We've done short films. Now, I mean, to be clear with our audience, we have recorded several episodes already, and they spanned from like Halloween through now. So the next episodes you're going to hear took place in like October, November, December. You're going to hear us talking about Halloween. We watched short horror films together. We're going to be talking about Christmas movies together. We're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff that might seem kind of dated at the time. But we're going to drop a few episodes all at once. And soon I just have to edit it. Me and Joseph go through the Oscar nominations to talk about those. Not that those are the end-all, be-all of making good movies or content, but they're interesting.
We're gonna take the Marvel approach, all right? This is the CTCU, right? So what this means is we've just established a new timeline. Everything we did in the past, you're watching is all from a whole nother timeline. So we can literally rewatch the exact same things that we didn't watch, but some other version of us already watched, and we can do it at a better quality than they did before. And you're just watching an alternate timeline. But what we're doing is completely original. It just so happens to be the exact same thing, all right?
It's a canon event.
Episode 2 will be us watching episode 2 and reacting to it.
There it is.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
that's all I got in my chamber for this one. I'm exhausted on this topic. I mean, if I wanted to scrounge up more to talk about, I'm sure I could, but it's late.
Yeah,
it's late. I'll sign up for us. I'll do the whole typical, cliche YouTube.
I don't know why I thought you were gonna say in prayer. I don't know why. I just
keep us in your prayers.
All right, keep audience, us in your prayers. Bow your heads and close those eyes. And if you're driving, you better close your eyes, because if you don't, it means you don't have enough faith.
Jesus, take the wheel. That's where Jesus needs to take the wheel in your life. You're holding back. Let go. Well, guys, those are our not top 10. Those are just our favorite movies. Whether it's a 10 out of 10 or it's comfort food. For us, like Jingle All the Way. I think that's a comfort. That's like a Taco Bell kind of movie right there. I love it. Or The Room. You got The Room. It's terrible, but you respect the craftsman or the lack of craftsmanship behind that amazing piece of entertainment. So we're hoping you guys enjoyed us, because we just wanted to say who we are and just give you a little bit of a taste of what we like. Don't forget to like and subscribe. That actually really does help out on the channel. If you didn't know that, like the video right now and subscribe today. Hit that notification bell. So, we love you guys. We look forward to seeing you next time. Peace.
Bye. See you, Ted.
That's Craig.
Craig.
Ted! We did it. We did it. First episode. I'm going to start editing this